Ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to this dialogue. Today on the show, we're going to be exploring how Ethiopia is safeguarding its unity, security, as well as national integrity in the face of coordinated diplomatic, informational, as well as propaganda campaigns. We will also explore some of the successful stories Ethiopia achieved during the recently concluded G20 summit in South Africa. And in order to unpack it all for us, I'm joined here in the studio by Ephraim Zodu, Belgium Coordinator of Defend Ethiopia Europe and Secretary of Ethiopian Community in Belgium. I am your host, Shifara Olag. Do stay with us. All right. Ephraim, thank you so much for joining me in the studio by coming to our studio. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Farrah, for inviting me and for giving me the opportunity to discuss on the
Absolutely. So let's first off talk about the recently concluded G20 summit in South Africa. How Ethiopia used this forum, this global platform, as a diplomatic hub. So how did Ethiopia properly use the G20 summit as a diplomatic hub?
Well, the G20 summit 2025 was special in a way that it was organized for the first time in Africa.
Right.
And South Africa was the host nation. And Ethiopia has used this diplomatic engagement, global platform, to pursue extensive diplomatic engagements. And it was very successful. We have seen the Ethiopian Prime Minister engaging major European powers, including we can mention the French President Emmanuel Macron, the German Chancellor, so from Europe, the Prime Minister of Norway, Prime Minister of Finland, from Nordic European countries, from Italian Prime Minister, so major European countries including Prime Minister from Netherlands, and so on. At the same time, Ethiopia has also engaged emerging countries like India, Brazil, South Africa, and also major regional and global actors like Turkey. So it was a major success and engagement and extensive diplomatic engagement that Ethiopia has used this platform to clarify its position, to engage global powers and pursue diplomatic engagements. And this was extensive, this was successful, because one of the areas our enemies work is to isolate Ethiopia diplomatically, economically, and politically.
Right.
So we have to fight this as a country, and the engagement and the efforts that was made by the Prime Minister was successful in engaging major global powers, including the UK Prime Minister also. So it was successful. It was a great work done by Ethiopia.
Exactly. So building on that, from what you've seen and what you've observed, what are some of the concrete diplomatic achievements that emerged from Ethiopia's sideline discussions during the summit?
Major points we can raise. One, bilateral interests of engagements were discussed, for example, in tackling climate change, in Ethiopia's requirement for support in tackling poverty, this kind of bilateral engagements like tackling climate change, global security issues, and so on. These are major areas of mutual interest. At the same time, Ethiopia has also its own national interest, especially with recent issues of access to the sea. Right. So Ethiopia, and this has been misinterpreted, a misinformation campaign has been also launched towards this, and Ethiopia has to clarify its position to major global powers that this is Ethiopia's legitimate request, and it's an Ethiopia's national interest and national security issue, and this has been conducted through major extensive diplomatic engagement at the highest level of major global powers, approaching the UK Prime Minister, approaching the German Chancellor, approaching the major European powers from Italy, Netherlands, Norway, Finland, so you can mention it. And this is an important diplomatic engagement. So Ethiopia has to clarify its position to the international community vis-à-vis its policy to access to the sea. At the same time, Ethiopia is also ready for multilateral engagement and partnership with major global powers. And Ethiopia wants to work and is committed to work with the global and international partners. And that's what Ethiopia has demonstrated, and that's what Ethiopia has achieved in terms of expressing its willingness, commitment for multilateralism, and to work with major European and global power and Middle Eastern countries, including from Abu Dhabi, the prince from Abu Dhabi. So Ethiopia is open to work with partners. That is what Ethiopia has demonstrated.
Right.
And then at the same time, it has also clarified its position that its policy vis-à-vis access to the sea is a legitimate issue of national interest. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. I think Ethiopia has managed to clearly make her voice heard globally, and it's a success by itself in some way.
Yes.
As you know, one of the success stories that Ethiopia achieved is that it's been selected to host COP32, which is really wonderful news for us. In this connection, as the host of COP32, what are some of the diplomatic messages that Ethiopia is expected to convey to the global community?
We can mention many. So to mention among this, one, Ethiopia hosting COP32 as a host country shows that Africa, Ethiopia, though we have challenges, we can play a global role, and we have a role to play. And Ethiopia is the perfect country to demonstrate this. As an African country, a country that has been for centuries supporting Pan-Africanism, being a voice of Africa, being a voice of the global South, and striving to overcome poverty. Ethiopia is a country that is perfectly selected for COP32. Now, in COP32, Ethiopia can not only demonstrate its diplomatic engagement and its diplomatic activities, but at the same time its commitment to climate change, its efforts and works to climate change. And major discussions along COP, discussions COP30, and the subsequent one would be in Turkey. So COP30 was in Brazil, COP31 would be in Turkey, and COP32 would be in Ethiopia. And major discussions is to combat climate change. And climate change is a global challenge. And in this global challenge, Ethiopia has a role, the global South has a role to play that Ethiopia will demonstrate in this one. And not only that, in the COP discussions, there are major issues that has been discussed so far to limit global climate change below 1.5 threshold. This has been so far, has not yet materialized. Works and efforts has been there, but there has not been mandatory commitments to achieve this. There was a Paris Accord that has been signed 10 years ago, but so far the climate change and climate warming is increasing. And it has not been, we have not yet reached the tipping point to reduce it. When we see Ethiopia, Ethiopia is not a contributor to global emission. In fact, Ethiopia is contributing to tackling climate change with its meager resources. We can see two major projects in Ethiopia. If we see our energy resources, it comes from renewable energy resources.
It's green.
It's green. From hydropower and from now we are working also in wind power and in solar. So, but mainly from hydropower, it's green and it's clean.
Right. So
we are not polluting to produce energy, unlike major hydrocarbon-based economies. The second one is Ethiopia is also working in afforestation, major afforestation projects like the Green Legacy that it has been working for several years now, planting billions of seedlings.
Right.
This is also a major pillar of the global climate change discussions. One is to reduce global climate emission, and the second one is to enhance carbon sinks globally. So Ethiopia, in both pillars, Ethiopia is working and contributing positively to tackling climate change globally. So Ethiopia being selected to host this discussion is a right selection. in terms of representing the voice of Global South, in terms of representing countries that are vulnerable to climate change impacts, in terms of contributing positively to tackling global climate change, be it in enhancing carbon sinks and be it in producing renewable energy resources. So it's a perfect selection, and Ethiopia will host this summit successfully, and we will not only demonstrate our diplomatic engagements, but also a concrete action towards reducing climate change and combating climate change.
Yes, I think it's very interesting because Ethiopia's selection to host COP32 comes in the aftermath, of course, as you said, of this East African country having planted billions of trees under this Green Legacy initiative. So how will COP32 feature Ethiopia's bold move in the fight against climate issues by becoming exemplary not only for Africa but beyond?
Yes. Ethiopia's action is exemplary to Africa and to other global countries.
Yeah.
So one of the challenges in tackling climate change is deforestation of the global rainforests, whereas Ethiopia is reversing this trend and is planting seedlings and engaged in afforestation projects through the Green Legacy project led by Prime Minister Dr. Abiy Ahmed. And so this shows a case that even poor countries, even emerging countries, can also contribute to tackle global climate change. And Ethiopia is investing its meager resources to tackle climate change, to enhance carbon sinks, and this is exactly exemplary.
Right.
So if we see Ethiopia's major policies, is one specifically in tackling climate change and addressing its national priorities. One is the afforestation project through the Green Legacy, and the second pillar is investing in renewable energies, investing in GERD, Koisha projects. These are renewable energy projects that would supply clean access to energy to households in Ethiopia. So in both pillars, Ethiopia can be exemplary, not only in hosting the issue, not only through engagements and discussions, but also through action that Ethiopia can demonstrate to take part in the fight against global climate change.
Yeah, that's interesting. Moving to other stories, as you know, one of the challenges that Ethiopia is grappling with is disinformation, misinformation, and also propaganda campaigns. And your organization, Defend Ethiopia, is working on countering these issues against Ethiopia. So give me some time and walk me through some of the major activities that you are doing as an organization in order to, in some way, counter these issues. What are some of the major activities that you're doing here?
So our engagement has different levels because the misinformation campaigns are multi-layered and that engage all aspects to destabilize Ethiopia. So first, what we have done is to analyze which ways and which actions are directed against us. So there are diplomatic engagements, efforts to isolate Ethiopia. So we have been fighting this. There are misinformation campaigns from mainstream medias. So we have been fighting this. And there are misinformation campaigns through social medias, and we have been fighting this. And the misinformation campaigns are directed both to our internal audience that they have been launching to divide us, so that the major work that they are doing is to divide Ethiopians, so that we fight each other, and then we cannot stand together for our national interest. And the second campaign that was directed against Ethiopia is by reaching out to the international community, to the global citizens, to trash the image of Ethiopia based on lies. So what we are doing is, for the internal audience, for Ethiopians, we are identifying Ethiopia's national interests, and we are saying that these issues are areas where we Ethiopians have to unite, to stand united, irrespective of political opinions, irrespective of ethnic or religious background. Ethiopia is a diverse country, and within our diversity, we have national interests, we have issues that we have to stand united, and we are identifying this, and we are reaching out to the Ethiopian youth and to the Ethiopian community, and at the same time to the Ethiopian diaspora as well, to stand united towards Ethiopia's interests, Ethiopia's national security, and Ethiopia's national interests. At the same time, to the diplomatic community, we have been trying to be voice for Ethiopian people. Ethiopian people have the truth and the fact. In a way, for example, if we raise the issue of GERD and Nile issue, Ethiopia is contributing 86% of the Nile River, whereas we have been for millennia, we have not been using the Nile, our resource. So we have been clarifying the position of the Ethiopian people and the facts to the international community. So when it comes to the international community, we are approaching the international community and clarifying the facts. Look, these are the facts, and these are the demand and issues of the Ethiopian people. To the Ethiopian people, we are approaching and we are calling and requesting the Ethiopian people and the Ethiopian diaspora to stand united towards Ethiopia's national security and national interest issues. So these are the major issues what we have been doing. Engaging in social media campaigns to combat the misinformation campaign, engaging diplomatically to approaching the international community.
Right.
I am based in Brussels, for example, in Belgium, so it's a diplomatic hub where you have the European Union, the European External Action Service, the European Council, and then the EU member states, 32 EU member states, ministers are also there. So we are approaching to the European and the partners to stand and support the Ethiopian people and the Ethiopian government diplomatically. At the same time, we are also approaching the Ethiopian community that we have to stand united for Ethiopia's national interest.
Yeah, this is, I think, part of the fight against the propaganda campaign waged against the sovereignty of Ethiopia by some countries which are blatantly working relentlessly to, as you said, tarnish the image of this East African nation and also to create havoc and destabilization in Ethiopia, which is busy trying to lift millions out of the poverty line. And whatever you are doing is really admirable. I think the international community has also some role to play. So how should they respond to the growing threats of misinformation, disinformation, and propaganda campaigns? What are some of the roles that you see they should play?
That's a very difficult question because globally the misinformation campaign
it's a global issue.
It's a global issue. But the way it's directed to us is sometimes really shocking. Ethiopia is not an enemy to any country. Ethiopia stand bold and committed for cooperation and to work in partnership with other countries. But whereas we see an increasing threat, misinformation campaign directed at Ethiopia. We can name the countries. One of the major players in this is Egypt. So Egypt works to destabilize Ethiopia in different ways. One, it works to create division among Ethiopians based on ethnicity or religion or whatever social sects we have, which are assets to us, but they want to make it liability. So they work to divide Ethiopia. At the same time, they also want to create disagreement between Ethiopia and our neighbors. That's their action regionally, and create a negative propaganda that Ethiopia is reducing the Nile River volume and affecting Egypt's interest and so forth, which is absolutely lie. Ethiopia has every right to develop its resources within its own geographical boundaries. But Egypt is engaged in the misinformation campaign against Ethiopia, and then it uses actors like TPLF and EPLF to advance its agenda and its interests in Ethiopia and in the region. So the misinformation campaign is directed at us mainly from enemies like Egypt. Is not based on fact, but based on lies, based on fear, and based on assumption. Ethiopia has stated that it is committed to fair and equitable share of the Nile resource. It is committed to work with Egypt and engage Egypt in its efforts to development. But Egypt assumes that Ethiopia wants to harm it. which is not the fact. Ethiopia is not harming Egypt. Ethiopia does not have the intention to harm Egypt. Ethiopia has clarified its position, yet Egypt continues to work as an enemy state towards Ethiopia.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we have to understand this. Ethiopians have to understand this, and we have to stand united to fight this.
Yes. Lies, fabrications, misinformation, and disinformation are some of the weapons that these countries are using against Ethiopia. And I think the diaspora community has a role to play. So, you're also a diaspora, part of the diaspora, and so they are playing great roles, but I think more needs to be done in this regard. So how is the diaspora community supporting Defend Ethiopia, specifically when it comes to countering narratives all targeted against Ethiopia?
The Ethiopian diaspora is working to defend Ethiopia, specifically on Ethiopia's national interests. What we are doing is identifying Ethiopia's national interests and saying, look, these are the areas that the Ethiopian diaspora has to stand united and support Ethiopia. For example, the issue of GERD, the issue of using and utilizing the Nile resource that we have, the issue of fighting poverty, the issue of ensuring peace in our country and security in our country. These are common national interests of all Ethiopians, be it in the diaspora or at home. The issue of access to the sea. These are Ethiopia's national interests that we have to stand united. So Defend Ethiopia is also working in identifying these issues, in supporting Ethiopia's national interests and trying to unify Ethiopians to stand together on Ethiopia's national interests. In terms of fighting the disinformation campaign, we have been launching several Twitter campaigns, especially during the northern conflict. The mainstream medias were day and night engaged to destabilize Ethiopia. Ethiopian people do not want our country to fail. We have learned lessons from Libya, from Yemen, from Syria. So we have been bringing up these issues, saying that Ethiopians, we have to defend our country, otherwise we are going to lose it. Like what we have seen in the Middle East, in Libya, in Syria, in Yemen. We don't want another Libya, another Yemen, another Syria in Ethiopia. And the world also cannot afford that. As Ethiopians also, we want Ethiopia to exist, to continue, and to stand united and strong as a country. So we have been working in preventing these campaigns, trying to destabilize Ethiopia, at the same time appealing to Ethiopians the danger of losing our country, so that we have to work to prevent it, we have to fight to defend our country, and we have to stand united for Ethiopia's national interest and national security issues.
Yes. Ephraim Zewdu from Defend Ethiopia Europe. Thank you so much for coming to our studio and for those wonderful ideas. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Shafra, for giving me the opportunity. And I would like to say thank you very much to Defend Ethiopia members and leaders, and also to Ethiopians who stand united to support and to be voice of Ethiopian people and to support for Ethiopia's national interest. Yeah. Let's work together and let's stand united for Ethiopia's national security, national interest issues. Yes, that's my message.
Yeah, I think that's a message. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of today's deep discussion on Ethiopia's diplomatic success stories, the challenges, and the way forward. A huge thank you to my guest today. And of course, many thanks to you, ladies and gentlemen, for having been with us so far. Until next time, take care.